Okay, hello and welcome to our May AIESEP Connect. I'm Professor Christy Howells and I'm welcoming you on behalf of the AIESEP board. If you haven't been to one of our AIESEP Connects before, the whole idea of them is to be our global outreach program. So the idea is that it offers a space and a place for our members to critically engage in all of the hot topics that are linked to our core mission today. And today we have the amazing technology special interest group who are going to be leading our AIESEP today. It's basically a monthly engagement and 1 hour online session. Sometimes on each Friday of the month, sometimes we're a little bit more flexible. So the idea is that we're committed to fostering an inclusive, equitable, and diverse environment aligned with our vision and mission. So we really value a creative and supportive space where all individuals are heard and valued. So if you want to ask questions at the end, please put your hands up. If you can't wait for the questions, please pop them in the chat and we'll collect them at the end. Our events are designed to be meaningful discussions across a broad spectrum of perspectives. However, we just note that the views and opinions expressed by our panels, our speakers, and our participants do not necessarily represent the views or policies or positions of AIESEP, and we do not endorse any specific statements. Now it's time to hand over to the Technology Special Interest Group, and in particular, Chad Gillian, to introduce the early careers perspectives for today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Christy. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're really happy that you're all here for this sort of session of the Digital Tech SIG. We're calling this session Early Career Perspectives on Digital Technology and Health, Physical Education, and Physical Activity, a community dialogue. As we know, there's a great deal happening in the tech space right now within education and really just more broadly within physical education and physical activity. So as a SIG, we felt it was important to create space that elevates early career perspectives in this area and allows us to hear from emerging scholars who are making sense of this moment through their own research and thinking. Our intention as a community dialogue is for this session to be conversational rather than just a sequence of formal responses. So we invited speakers to reflect on the larger problems that motivate their work, but we're hoping that the community can provide their perspectives through comments and questions as well. So be thinking through some of those things as our presenters talk. We're just really grateful that everybody can kind of come together at this time of the semester. We know it's all busy, and so we hope this session opens up discussion. Pablo Lope García is up first, and his presentation is entitled Beyond the Physical Education Classroom, Digital Public Pedagogies and the Reconfiguration of Health Practices, Bodies, and Subjectivities. Pablo's a PhD candidate. Getting on here. This is good. At the Universidad Complutense de Madrid. You'll say that way better than me, but he's working within the Digital Health EDU project. His research adopts participatory approach, engaging young people as co-researchers in exploring digital health promotion. He draws on post-qualitative and feminist new materialist perspectives. He analyzes how digital health material discursive practices shape young people's experiences of physical activity, health, and the body. So Pablo, let's hear it. You're up.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me properly? Is everything set? Yeah, okay. So thank you very much for the presentation. I'm gonna share some slides to help my speech, but your presentation was great. So I'm gonna start with, let me just 1 second. Yeah, there we go. So I want to start with a scene. Natalie is 16. At some point, her family started making comments about her body, about her weight, about how it's changing. She gets tired of hearing it, so she picks up her phone. She searches YouTube. She finds a Pilates channel, over 1 million subscribers, and she writes on her digital diary, "This is a Pilates channel. I feel like it will help me a lot to get the weight I want." A few days later, another entry. "I tried it and I stopped because I got too tired too fast. I don't have enough motivation." And then in the interview, she said this, "Sometimes it's like I get a bit angry, but at myself, because it's like You complain and you complain, but then when it comes to actually doing it, you don't. And then you regret you don't do it. It's like a circle. I don't know. She laughs, a nervous laugh, and calls herself lazy. That laugh is where I want to stay for a moment. In physical education research, when digital technologies come up, we tend to ask which app improve motivation, which wearables give us better data, how do we use technology to teach more effectively. Those are not bad questions, but they embrace technology as neutral, as separate from the body that uses it. A recent scoping review of health and digitalization related PE research shows that this is the dominant approach in the field. We have focused on learning with digital tools to optimize teaching and outcomes, but rarely on learning about what those tools are doing to bodies, meanings, and subjectivities. So what Natalie's laugh tells us is that something else is happening. The family comments, the YouTube algorithm, the Pilates video, the tired body, the expectation of visible transformation, these didn't interact as separate things. The platform amplified content that promises exactly what she had been told she needs. They co-produce something together. They co-produce a body that needs to change, a tired body that feels like a personal failure. This is pedagogical work that digital technologies are already doing every day beyond PE classroom and beyond the school. This is what Rich and Mia describe as digital public pedagogies. The research I'm drawing on is my PhD project that is developed within Digital Health Edu project. It's a Spanish national project, and using a participatory approach in which 17 young people took part as co-researchers. Together, we co-designed a digital diary host on Instagram, used for 10 days, where 14 other participants across 3 educational centers could share images, text, audio, even links and short videos. And that tool gives us access to something that maybe a survey or a classroom observation cannot reach. The intimate, the relational, the everyday entanglement of bodies, screen, affects, and norms. A feminist new materialism framework make possible to refuse reading this as individual responsibility and to ask instead what kind of bodies, affects, and possibilities are being co-constituted through digital public technologies and pedagogies. And as these next cases I'm gonna show, they share the same logic, but they don't produce the same effects for everybody. So Natalie is not alone in this. Let me briefly introduce 2 other assemblages. For Alex, a 15 years old, who can explain exactly how the algorithm works. He shared during the digital diary days a detailed explanation how he thinks that works. He feels the algorithm as an ally. It delivers exactly what he wants, until what he wants is precisely what the platform has taught him to want. The feed builds an environment where a certain kind of male body is simply what is normal, what is desirable, what is worth becoming. He does not experience that as a prescription. He experiences it as a personal taste, as a free choice. The norm arrives as desire. For Nora, the algorithm keeps returning a TikTok trend about noses that don't fit the norm. So he feels like her nose doesn't fit the norm. The insecurity and the content that are not separate things. They emerge together. It's making the other even more intense. The digital ecosystem produces the vulnerability that the algorithm activates and amplifies. So same device, the phone, in this case, same logic, but different bodies, different effects. So let me close with no conclusions, but with 3 openings for our conversation. The first, if digital platforms are already doing pedagogical work on and through young bodies, can physical education become a space where those assemblages become visible? Not a space that competes with Instagram, TikTok, wearable devices, or other digital technologies, but a space where a look like Natalia's can be examined as a social material phenomenon, not a personal fault. And where something other like change your body might become thinkable. The second, what do affects do here? The nervous laugh, the admiration Alex feels while scrolling, the insecurity that Nora carries when the trend appears again. These are not noises in the data, they are the mechanism. What does it mean for our research and for our teaching to take affect seriously? Not as individual psychology, but as something that moves through bodies, screens, and relationships. And the third, which I think this research made impossible to avoid, what forms of ethical care do we owe to young people when our research enters the spaces where these assemblages live? The bedroom, the personal phone, the feed. What that it actually means to do research with young people and not simply on or about them. These are no rhetorical questions, and I think this perhaps where our conversation can begin. Thank you.
Thanks, Pablo. Really well done. What questions or comments does the group have for Pablo? Go ahead, Julia. I think you're muted. There you go.
Hey, sorry. Thank you, Pablo. Thanks, Chad. Great presentation. Stunning slides, by the way. Really nice. The questions that you put at the end prompted me to think about how you located physical education within those questions. So arguably, some of the messages and the things that you talked about go beyond physical education. They're a broader educational consideration rather than just physical ones. So I guess what would you consider for education in general? So that's quite a broad question, but things that education as a whole should look at, and perhaps physical education could look into something more specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Really, really good point. Yeah, as you said, some of these things, if we focus on the one about the trend on TikTok about the normative nose is beyond physical education. I try to bring other things related with Natalie's that perhaps is the one that is with a straight connection with our field. But I was trying to shape what algorithm can do in different kind of bodies. As we can see, those technologies are non-neutral, so they are powerful normative gender messages. But on my data and results, there are more specific physical education results. So I will take your suggestion and focus more on our field. We could so from the data we co-produce with the young people in digital diaries, and then on our conversation in the interview, that the epistemic authority go beyond our role as physical teachers. We found in different narratives that that epistemic authority is placed in normative bodies, so social media influencer or even like other kind of personalities, but they carries their normative body. So for the students is like the authority of knowledge is over there. And but they don't refuse of our role. They don't reject like the role of physical educator, but is not placed on this entanglement. So another question, maybe to open a debate, is if where to place ourselves in this complex and relational work that bodies come to the schools and the lessons already with all these public pedagogies on it. So their bodies, their subjectivities are shaped already when they arrive to the classroom. So yeah, so I think we have to find the ways to build bridges to this complexity that is ever moving and ever changing. New apps are gonna come up, new other mechanisms, and affect. We found out affect is the entity that is moving things on this complexity. Thank you.
Thank
Great
you,
stuff.
Pablo.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Julia. Pablo, there's a question from Risto, who's just taking care of business at home and work here. He's just asking, how do we push the discussion in class? Maybe you can take a look at that and respond in the chat, and we'll move on to the next presentation. But keep in mind, there's going to be some connections between these presentations, and we can always circle back at the end with further discussion. So great job again, Pablo. Thank you so much.
Great.
We're going to move on. We're going to move on to Hung-Ying Lee. He's next. He's an assistant professor in the Department of Physical Education and Kinesiology at National Donghua University in Taiwan. He earned his PhD from National Taiwan Normal University. His research primarily focuses on sport pedagogy, specifically investigating technology integration in physical education, the technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge framework, TPAC, and the application of design thinking in teacher education. Dr. Lee is actively exploring the enhancement of AI literacy among pre-service teachers to address contemporary pedagogical barriers and reduce teaching stress. Through this innovative methodological approaches and scholarly contributions, he's deeply committed to advancing the future development of physical education on a global scale. So let's hear it, Dr. Lee.
And thanks, Chad. Hey, can you see my screen? Yes. Okay, thanks. And hi, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank AIESEP, Technology SIG, and Chad for this wonderful invitation. As a young scholar, it is true honor for me to share my insight here today. Looking at participants online, I'm so excited to see many outstanding scholars whose work I have cited their paper before. And my name is Hung-Ying Lee, and I'm from National Donghua University, Department of Physical Education and Kinesiology. Today, my topic is from technical stress to transformation, empower PE teachers through design thinking, TPAC, and AI literacy. In this slide, which outlines my academic path over the past 5 years, in the beginning, my research focused on practical applications like using AR or VR in a PE class. However, I'm soon realized that simply providing technology to school is not enough. To create real change, we must deeply understand the teacher's inner knowledge and mindset. So this realization led me to the TPAC framework, where I expert to develop PE teachers' technological knowledge and teaching belief. Also, to help teachers overcome technology barriers, I found that design thinking is a very effective method. By using it in teacher training, we can help them completely redesign their teaching process. Finally, the research journey brings me to my current focus. I'm now applying this foundation of TPAC and design thinking to develop challenge of AI. So begin our discussion, I would like to invite you to think about two questions. First, in your professional practice, have you ever experienced worry by technology improvement? I believe many of us have, so we are here today. But in sport pedagogy, we value physical movement and human connections. However, new technology in everywhere now, and it can be overpowering. This guides me to second questions. So it is actually what I were asked for today. I'm showing you some of my research. Today, PE teachers face a new challenge. As you can see, our classes are not filled with diverse technology devices. Many studies show that technology improves student learning. That is good news. However, we often overlook the other side. Technology also brings the huge pressures for our teachers, because using technology is often not their choice. Teachers are pushed to use this tool by school policy or government policy. They must quickly learn the new software and manage the device while keeping students safe. So this heavy worry leads directly to the technical stress I expert. So this study focused on the relationship between Taiwanese PE teachers, technical stress, constructivism, teaching belief, and burnout. And we analyzed more than 200 questionnaires using PLS modeling statistic. The study indicate that overall technical stress is significant and positively relate to burnout, especially between the different factors: technical inventions and technical insecurity and uncertainty are significant and positive predict burnout. However, the data also show the power of constructivism teaching belief. This belief not only directly and negatively predict burnout, but they also play a key role as a mediator between invention and uncertainty and burnout. In other words, even if new technology necessarily bring pressures to teaching environment, maybe there is a clear solutions. As well as PE teachers hold stronger to student center constructivism teaching belief, they can create a new perfect effect. And in 2025, my research, I asked sampling questions. Why do PE teachers avoid technology? Why? I found they face hidden barriers. To understanding this, I adapted technology as educational framework for our PE field. There are three levels of barriers. First order barriers are external, like missing device or poor internet. But even with good equipment, teachers face second order barriers. These are internal. They connect to the teacher's mindset, beliefs, and self-efficacy. Final, the third order barriers are about design. This is core challenge. It requires design thinking. If teachers cannot redesign their classes, real technology integration will not happen. So to overcome this challenge and reduce technical stress, the TPAC framework played a key role. And this research connects design thinking with a TPAC framework in PE. I think the co-author is online here, Risto. And our research showed that practicing emphasize ideate, and prototype strongly help preserve teachers integrate technology. This proof that building the human-centered designers mindset is a highly effective strategy. It helps future teachers go beyond basically teach, use, and design and truly innovative learning experience. I think interesting is we also find that the definition, the defined stage of design thinking does not predict TPAC development. It might because defined abstract problem creates too much cognitive load for beginner who lack real teaching experience. So we suggest that teacher education program should focus on hands-on design of activities first, before asking freshmen to solve different problems. Continue from my past study. My research showed that divergent thinking, especially emphasize and ideate, strongly predict TPAC in preserved teachers. This thing help teacher looking beyond just teaching motor skill. It's empower them to use modern technology to create interesting environment. On the other hand, we found a limit with convergent thinking. It's predict TCK, but not whether pedagogical knowledge like TPK or TPCK. So preserved PE teachers must study teaching materials for diversity of sport terms, make it difficult to understanding the core concept and challenge of these materials at short times. So it is even more difficult to translate into teaching practice. In another study, I explore how preserved teachers view the understanding and application about AI. During my interview in Taiwan, one student shared a powerful thought. He said, AI cannot replace the human passion for teachers, but if you use it well, it is a great tool to personalize to my teachings. And this perfect show the true meaning of our AI literacy. It is not just about using new software or new technology. It is about critical thinking. We must know AI's limit in human connection and its power in instruction design. So integrations technology is never a one-way street. To success, we must deeper consider teachers' mental preparedness and their real world concern. And finally, I would like to bring up a question that's required promote consideration and discovery. So I will print my new study next month in AIESEP in Taipei about a new theoretical framework for AI integration barriers in PE. And thanks you're attending. This is my campus, the biggest campus in Taiwan.
That's beautiful. Well done. So any responses for that final question? I think that's an interesting question for the group to maybe comment on, or something else. Really well done.
Thanks, John.
Christy, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It was really interesting. I wondered, what did you think? I'm not going to answer the question at the end. What did you think the next anxiety might be? So we've had VR, we're now on AI. What do you predict as the next thing that we might all be anxious about and we might need to prepare our student teachers for? So how can we help them get ready, and what might it be, do you think?
Okay, thanks for your question. I'm worried about just for me, I worry about AI is change quickly. So if we not focus on that, we will be replaced, or we will have a lot of pressures. So So I use the design thinking for my student, for the pre-service teachers. For example, during my maybe 16 weeks course, I have students complete the lesson plans at home using AI without conditions, and then bring then maybe next or 2 week, they bring their work to class for group discussion and review to identify any issue, such as whether the design is too romantic or they didn't think about assessment concept. So I provide a framework for them to think it. And next, I bring them to the senior or junior high school to solve the P class structure and in-service teacher practice the P class. And then they will show their lesson plans to the in-service teachers, and in-service teacher will give them their experience and feedback. Yeah, so maybe this time, I think the most important is this time, they will think about critical thinking before they compare the before and after they use AI. Yes, so
Brilliant.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Risto's asked a question maybe for everybody rather than just for yourself, about the banning of cell phones, and what do you think the effect of that is for the fact we've been telling teachers to use QR codes, to utilize apps, but now a sudden ban of cell phones in school. Do you think this is going to cause difficulties or have no positive effects? What do you think? But the others might want to jump in, and Chad might want to do this at the end. But just picking up on Risto's question, because I know he can't put his camera on.
So I have to answer.
Got some comments. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question for all of us to think about here in the United States, especially since a lot of states are banning it. Some states aren't. You said we spent, a couple years trying to develop teacher knowledge on how to leverage cell phones, and now they're not using them in schools. So I think that's something interesting for us all to think about. Xiaolu, I think we could take one quick question and then we can move on. Ove, can you drop yours in the chat maybe?
Yeah, great. Just very quick, I think that's very similar with what I'm gonna present next. But I can share my question in the chat.
Sounds good. That's a good segue. Dr. Lee, thanks so much. Good work. Both you
Thanks.
and Pablo have really good slide art. I think you're causing us all to want to step up our game here.
Thanks.
All right. So Dr. Xiaolu will be our third presentation. She's at Georgia State University. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Kinesiology and Health. Her scholarship centers on two interconnected strands. First, pre-service physical education teachers assessment literacy development, and then integrating artificial intelligence literacy into physical education teacher education. She's a faculty fellow of the SNAP Incorporated Center of Computer and Teacher Education at Georgia State, and is committed to preparing effective, reflective, and digitally competent future teacher educators who can thrive in an evolving and ever-evolving educational context shaped by both curriculum reform as well as emerging AI and other technologies. Dr. Liu, take us away.
Thanks, Chad, and thanks, AIESEP, for this great opportunity to engage in the innovative conversation in the larger context. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. And my name is Xiaolu Liu. I'm from Georgia State. In the next, hopefully, 10 minutes, my major focus will be on discussing how can we better prepare future physical education teachers by rethinking learning in the context of AI, so from AI tools to competence. I'm not going to go over through this again, but one thing I want to highlight is, so my primary research focuses on assessment literacy, and all my recent work on AI literacy start from my assessment course. I teach pre-service teachers with assessment course. And ever since I joined Georgia State since 2022, I'm part of the SNAP Center in our college. So we did a lot of teacher education and also AI integration. So I spent several years exploring how AI works, how it doesn't work, had a lot of conversation with AI ethics and participating in a lot of professional development courses from ISTE. Some still, it's ongoing projects and especially for the research and teaching around AI literacy in physical education, teacher education. I want to start my presentation with this map. So AI has been there in education and also in physical education, teacher education, and the AI chain has left station a while ago compared to 2 or 3 years ago. It's different, but I feel like there's still someone, a lot of us standing in the platform and debating the schedule. But as you can see from the map, there are more than 30 states has already developed a clear guideline for AI use, especially for ethical and responsible AI use in K-12 schools. And if we can situate physical education, teacher education in this larger context, we can think about okay, for this context, how can we better prepare future teachers for this ethical and responsible AI use for their future teaching, and how are we changing, and or have we changed? And the concerns are reasonable because I heard a lot of conversations and discussion about AI use in our own class, especially embedding AI in different teacher education courses, because traditional way, especially lesson planning, assessments, or developing different learning tasks or curriculum, students can now go to AI and generate different things, sometimes without even thinking if they don't use effective prompt engineering. So we're still assessing the product, but we can no longer assume the thinking behind it. So I think Dr. Lee mentioned that as well. The main part of AI literacy is critical thinking, and that's what we're trying to emphasize. When AI is available, how can we make sure thinking is still unavoidable? So, for all of us, we need to really shift our mindset from different AI tools. Tool is technology, but another layer for all of us to think of teacher prep is to make sure students have the competence and decide when to use AI, how to evaluate it, and when not to rely on it. So this is the critical conversation about the AI literacy in PEAT. And so my major focus is to make sure we still have meaningful learning happen in teacher education, in PEAT, in the AI age. And over the years, I explored different ways to integrate AI, especially generative AI, in different teacher education courses, assessment development curriculum, and teaching methods course. Those are major courses I've been teaching. So I was trying to see what kind of example, and that's what was my question, was trying to ask Dr. Lee, like, what is, based on your experience, what are some effective ways to integrate AI in your class and to promote students' learning in different teacher education courses? So one of the effective way, based on my own experience, is to redesign learning activities where thinking is unavoidable, and also to redefine quality of student work. So one day I grade students' assignments. I do see a lot of great quality of students' homework, but you can easily tell that's AI generated. Although I try different ways to restructure the assignments, to make sure I still can evaluate thinking. But that's make me feel like, hey, we cannot just focus on the outcome of, for example, assessment assignments. Students can just develop rubric by using AI, but what is their reasoning behind it? That's the most important thing for us to emphasize right now. But before I jump into an example, I do want to talk a little bit about AI literacy concept. So that's from the Digital Promise AI literacy framework. So it's still developing. There are different scholars, different organizations talk about AI literacy framework. The essential thing of AI literacy, or the components, is to understand AI, use AI, and also evaluate AI. So regardless, the center of AI literacy is human judgment and to centering human value and teacher professional judgment within AI literacy. So everything is trying to prepare teachers or for whoever use AI to make sure they still have human reasoning, they still have critical thinking behind it whenever AI is available. So my personal experience over the years, I started AI integration in my assessment course. I teach that every spring semester. Ever since 2024 spring semester, I started to redesign my assignments across my course, trying to find out what will be the best way to support my student in my course to make sure they understand the meaning of AI, how AI works, when AI doesn't work, and what is the critical thing we still have to center is their thinking. So you can see from, this is the left side is from 2024 spring semester. I started to think about AI, think about thinking, and then how can I structure the assignments, and then this is what I use this semester, 2026 spring, in my assessment course. So far, I feel, based on my own observation, experience, conversation with my students, these three parts it works better and really help students to still center their own thinking, their understanding of assessment, their content knowledge of, what is the problem, why I use these type of assessment, and how, I put a lot of, space on their justification and reasoning instead of just focus on the outcome, like a rubric or checklist at the end. So I give them the opportunity to use AI, but still ask them to provide a lot of their evaluation thinking when they use AI, and they have to decide, what is the final assessment tool based on their own thinking, based on the use of AI to think about and reflect what is the impact of this output on their teaching and learning. So I see a lot of great reflection thinking based on my grading on the students' assignments, and definitely I do see this is something that I feel like I will keep doing in my courses. So all my design of those activities, assignments is based on the Bloom AI framework. So we can see AI definitely can do a lot of things in helping us understand or remember different things. So whenever I have a question or I don't understand the methods, I will go to AI. So it can give me, different information, but it's pretty the bottom line of the Bloom taxonomy. For the higher level thinking, we still need a lot of human input and human lead the thinking process, but we can use AI to support the thinking and brainstorm and be more creative in this process. So this framework really for me, or I hope I will keep doing, is to make sure we can, as a teacher educator, we can design learning where AI can support, but students must still think to make sure critical thinking, still is the essential part of students' learning. And this is from a study that those scholars they combine or integrate the AI literacy framework and also the Bloom's taxonomy together. So you can see AI literacy, they have different components from know, understand, or use AI, and evaluate AI. They align with different levels of thinking. So we want to focus more on make sure students use AI to understand AI ethics and to evaluate AI so that can align with more the higher level thinking within the Bloom's taxonomy. So ongoing thinking, that's the last slide of my presentation. So as teacher educators, as the researchers in PEAT, let's continue to discuss or think how we can design AI to be used as a scaffold for learning rather than a substitute for teacher thinking, and how can PEAT better support pre-service teachers in developing critical judgment when working with AI. And the last question is, what kinds of teacher education experiences most effective to promote AI literacy in PEAT? So I hope we can continue this conversation, not only practically, but also scholarly. So look forward to see more of those innovative conversations held by AIESEP as well. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer as well. So thank you all for listening.
Fantastic stuff. Thanks, Dr. Liu. And I see Ove has a question already. Go ahead, Ove.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Liu. Thank you so much for a very interesting presentation. It's directly into a topic that concerns me quite a bit this last couple of months, and I've been kind of debating with myself, because we've done some similar work with our students where we have AI generate lessons and have them like debate and discuss in group and stuff, like the quality, what's good in this and what's not so good in this. But I also find myself debating, do they have the necessary judgment or like the professional competence or judgments to really do these calls? Because I find when we do the same exercise between colleagues, we tend to not agree. We tend to not be kind of feeling confident in really assessing the output, because we don't have a profound understanding of these disruptions going on, like understanding why the answers are like they are and stuff. So sometimes I feel this is not for students early in their careers, maybe towards their final years, that they have this experience from classrooms, experience from teaching and being with students, to be able to kind of take these judgments on assessing AI outcome. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. What's your experience on like maybe early career students or those who are more in their final stages, or among you as colleagues as well? It's not easy to kind of dissecate these outputs.
Mhm. So I think that's great question, and I think that's what we're all trying to figure out. How can we better support students? We cannot just simply bring AI into the table and then just leave out there, let students explore. So over the years, there are some good things, up and down based on my own personal experience. At the very beginning, I was very excited. Hey, AI is there. That's super cool. That's fancy. And I want to see what are the opportunities out there to support future teachers. So some things is students feel like, hey, AI, AI can do a better job than myself. I don't have to think anymore. I just go to, AI and put something and it will generate a rubric in 1 second, right? 2 seconds. And then ever since that conversation started, it really helped me think about, hey, what can I better or bring AI into the conversation instead of just put the tool out there. So one thing I really want to highlight is the teacher educators on professional development. If we don't have those foundations, we cannot model the effective or responsible AI use in a right way. So over the years, I spent a lot of time in learning, studying, participating in workshop, professional development. I think that's what all teacher educator has to do as well. And the same thing as pre-civis teachers. So in all my courses, it's not, so at Georgia State, I work with different colleagues in our program. So it's not only just for my own course, we trying to intentionally build AI literacy from the foundation to the advanced level of AI use across different courses. So for example, in the intro level of our PET course, we start to talk about AI. So the ultimate goal is to help students progressively build the AI foundation. So if they don't have those AI foundations, they won't be able to, engage with AI critically or responsibly. So that's what I really trying to figure out, especially in our curriculum, how can we scaffold such learning across PET courses to make sure students have such content knowledge or their foundation to make sure they move, after they graduate or towards the end of the program, they can have those, judgment or, foundation built up. So it's not just one time deal. Definitely, it needs to be built up and scaffolded over the time.
That's such a great point too, in combination with the content knowledge, right? In order to be critical, we have to have an understanding of the field and experiences. So that's awesome to see that you're integrating that with such across your whole curriculum there. Great work down there in Georgia State. Hopefully there'll be some articles about all these things from everyone. I'm excited to learn more. Thanks, Dr. Liu. This is great. Last but not least, Dr. Omar Albaloul, newly minted PhD from the Arizona State University. He just graduated with a PhD in physical education and sport pedagogy from ASU, recently returned back to Kuwait. His research focuses on pedagogical models, particularly game-based approaches and the sport education model, as well as the use of generative artificial intelligence to support teaching and assessment in physical education. Like I said, he's currently assistant professor in the Department of Curriculum and Instruction at Kuwait University. So Dr. Albaloul, let's hear it. Welcome. You're muted then, yep.
Thank you, Dr. Killian, for introducing me and for the opportunity to be part of this session. Can you see my screen now? Sorry, can you see my screen?
We can see you, but not your screen.
Let me try this again. Okay. So
Can't get it to work. You can still give your speech, no worries. Or you can send me the slides.
Yeah,
I can pop them on if you need me.
yeah, I will just share the slides with you now.
In the in-between time, whilst we're waiting, Omar, and you're doing that, is it worth just having a quick highlight and throw forward to the pre-conference session so that gives you time to just type whilst, and then we can hear all about what's coming next for this SIG, Chad?
I'm going to leave that to Ove. He's got all the good stuff going on in Taiwan. So do you want to give a little rundown of the pre-conference session, Ove?
Yeah, sorry. I was just typing at the same time, so my brain doesn't really function for doing both times. I was just writing, and I just hoping that as many as possible can join us in our pre-conference session on Monday on the AIESEP Taiwan conference, where we actually going to do part of that is continue the debate that we are just looking into today. Originally, we had a couple of things. One thing had to go out because the electronic belt developed in Alicante had a limited European patent secured, so they weren't allowed to even bring it or even talk about it or even show a picture of it outside Europe. So we changed a bit on the program. We are still going to do the VR stuff. So I'm gonna bring some of those where we're gonna look into some examples of use in PEAT on those, but also a bit from the book I'm writing on artificial intelligence and PE. We are going to continue and we are going to look into some of these practices going on today to spark a debate on like directions forward and how can we secure as the last presenter as well, how can we go into and give some direction on ethical and good practical or practices in the future. So it's going to be a somewhat interactive debate pre-conference session that I'm really looking forward to and hoping as many as possible can attend.
I can't wait to come, especially because I want to look forward to see how you can teach me how to do VR without getting dizzy. But it looks like Omar might be ready. So handing over to Omar via Chad pressing the buttons.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
So today I will talk about large language models and how they may shape the future of physical education. My goal is not to present one study in detail, but to reflect on the larger problem that motivates my research, what I have learned so far, and what questions remain for our field. First of all, large language models are a type of generative AI. Examples include ChatGPT, Gemini, and DeepSeek. These tools are trained on massive amount of text data and can understand and generate human-like language. In simple terms, they can answer questions, explain ideas, summarize information, help write lesson plans, and provide suggestions through conversation. What makes large language models different? There are two main differences in these technologies. First, generative AI is generative, or large language model is generative because they create new content and the responses, and instead of only searching for existing information like Google, they are also they can create their own content. They are also social, and I mean by social, they are unlike traditional search engines. They can respond to context, continue a dialogue, and feel like interactive thinking partner. So my interest in large language models comes from long-standing challenges in physical education. Physical education teachers are often expected to teach many activities, sports, and skills. For example, in Kuwait, the only content we have is sports. In different countries, teachers are required to teach also nutrition or health-related fitness. So we don't have one agreement on the content. So many teachers may lack content content knowledge. The teachers also have to write lesson plans, and many novice teachers struggle to write good lesson plans. Teachers also need to assess students, adapt activities, and manage large classes. In many contexts, PE is marginalized, and teachers have few professional development opportunities. And many teachers also find it difficult to learn to implement instructional models in physical education, such as sport education or game-based approaches, because researchers have shown that these instructional models are very difficult to learn and to implement. So I believe that because of these challenges I discussed, large language models may be useful for PE teachers. They may help teachers generate ideas, lesson ideas, explain rules or critical elements of sports or activities, modify activities for different learners, create assessment tasks, and learn about instructional models. This doesn't mean that large language models can solve all problems in PE, but because these tools are very accessible, user-friendly, powerful, and fast, they may provide support in areas where PE teachers often have limited times or limited professional development. My research has explored so far. So I did I conducted a study 2 years ago. I explored how PE teachers in the US use and perceive ChatGPT. Teachers mainly used ChatGPT for lesson planning, content knowledge support, and adapting activities. And for those I interviewed, they also shared some concerns about whether they need to trust the content generated by AI or not. So after this study, and recently, Dr. Chad Killian and I, we examined how accurately ChatGPT answered a basketball common content knowledge test. Common content knowledge refers to knowledge such as rules, etiquette, technique, and tactic in basketball. And we found that ChatGPT showed high accuracy in answering the CCK test. So the next step for my research, I believe that we need to examine large language models accuracy in PE-related content. The next step would be examining ChatGPT accuracy in more complex areas such as specialized content knowledge, which includes identifying and correcting student errors, selecting appropriate instructional cues, and designing progressions. I also aim to examine the accuracy of ChatGPT in adapting content and in producing lesson plans. I believe this is important because we need to remember that large language models are not developed for PE or for any field. So we need first to check if they can produce accurate content before examining how we can help teacher to improve their teaching or lesson planning. So we need first to test the accuracy of these tools. So although I see strong potential for in large language models, I do think that we should approach them only with not only with excitement. These tools can produce inaccurate information, and they can reflect bias from the data they were trained on. So large language models were trained on billions of data. These data include biased data such as social media, data from social media. So we need to be careful when using these tools. These tools can also, teachers and pre-service teachers may also overly rely on them, especially when writing lesson plans or learning content. This creates an important challenge for teacher education. So my biggest concern, and this is a question for us, that if future teachers rely heavily on large language models during their teacher education programs, how will they develop the knowledge they need to verify and check the AI-generated content? Because in our papers, we tend to conclude with a reminder for teachers that they are the teachers, they are licensed, and they need to check and verify if the content generated by AI is accurate or not. But if they just use it in their teacher education programs, and I believe many pre-service teachers are just using those tools to complete their assignment, then how can we ask those future teachers to verify or to double check the content generated by AI? And this is the biggest concern and the question we need to think about. I believe that these two questions need to be answered. How will pre-service teachers verify AI-generated content if they are just using it during their teacher education programs? And how may biases in training data appear in PE context? There are very interesting empirical studies in different fields and academic subjects that examined biases in those tools, large language models, that we need to replicate to see if the AI-generated content in these large language models can be biased, and we need to show this to our future teachers. So large language models have promise, but concern remain about accuracy and hallucinations, bias, over-reliance, ethical use, teacher preparation, and professional judgment. Thank you so much. And for any question, this is my email. Thank you.
Awesome work, Dr. Albaloul. What questions do we have here with the remaining couple minutes?
Omar, thank you so much for the presentation. I just asked in the chat, how do you train or teach the LMN to overcome the bias that you were talking about? So in particular, maybe a cultural or a translational or a particular geographical locational bias that you might have in terms of understanding high quality PE.
Yeah, I think the first step we need to do is to check empirically. We need to conduct a study, empirical study, to test bias and share this with our future teachers. And there are good examples in different academic subjects that I'm happy to share that we need to replicate. And yeah, I think this is very important. And this is the first step we need to do just immediately before even thinking how can we help teachers to avoid bias. Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Albaloul, and thank you to everyone who was here. This was incredible. I love the diversity of topics, but also I think we can see the interconnectedness. I think Julia mentioned how awesome it is that each and every one of you have taken a critical approach to this. We're not techno-determinists, and I think that's a good attitude to have as we move forward cautiously in the field, because our field is embodied. We're humans, and we want to be able to curate that perhaps through technology and perhaps not. So I've got my wheels turning about how we could perhaps leverage this SIG more frequently to have these types of conversations. The questions in the chat were fantastic. The questions in just the minor conversations that we had here were fantastic. And so we'll get together as a SIG organizing group and maybe be in contact, Christy, with ways that we can sort of perhaps gather more, figure out ways that we can kind of just continue to come together as a community, because this AIESEP community is fantastic. If you're not a member, I strongly encourage you to join the community, sign up for the SIG on their new website. It's functioning really well. It's awesome. And I see a bright future for this group as we move forward towards Taiwan and after. So be sure to check out the pre-service conference session if you're going there. I think there's a lot of other tech sessions going on as well. So be sure to encourage each other, ask these critical questions, and let's continue moving forward in a good way.
Just following on from that, Chad, firstly, thank you to all our presenters who presented today. Awesome presenting, especially for being early careers as well. And we have a community section within our AIESEP members section, of which the tech SIG sits. So you can have access in terms of following on this community dialogue there, as well as having maybe designing more hour sessions that we can help you with in terms of running throughout the year so that you can continue these conversations, which takes me to June. We have one more AIESEP Connect that we've managed to squeeze in before Taiwan. I'm not sure how we're doing this, but we are. We are going for the Global Physical Literacy Action Framework. For those of you who wish to join us, it is on the 5th of June. It is at midday Central European summertime. So I'll put all the times up for everybody in terms of time buddy. So hopefully you'll be able to find the right time zone of when it is and when it will be on. So on behalf of the board, thank you so much for joining us today. You will be able to follow this up on our AIESEP YouTube channel, and also we thanks to Risto for hosting this on his Playing with Research in Health and Physical Education podcast that is found on Spotify. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So if you want to hang